Welcome back to the Crypto Channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now, do not be fooled. Bitcoin is still potentially repeating this massive top signal that we saw earlier this year, but something massive just happened in the US stock market, which I'll talk about in just a moment, which can affect the crypto market, while we're now seeing a rejection in the Bitcoin dominance from this exact area of resistance, which at least in the short term, while this is happening, is good news for the altcoin market. And we're seeing right now Ethereum officially confirm a new bullish divergence, which I'll talk about in just a moment. And yes, I'm still currently in my trading strategy, and yes, I've just made some changes to this trading strategy and about to make more changes as well, which I'll talk about all of that and more later in the video, so definitely watch to the end. First of all, just before taking a look at the Bitcoin and crypto charts today, we need to talk about the US stock market and what is affecting all of this short-term price action here, which ultimately goes on to affect the crypto market as well. And of course, as you probably already know by now, on Friday with that massive sell-off, not just in crypto, but a huge dump here in the US stock market. This is the S&P 500 index. Obviously, this was primarily caused by the new announcement on that day from Trump talking about massive new tariffs coming on China, basically new tariffs for China, 100% tariffs here, he said, going into effect on November 1st. And basically all you need to know about tariffs is, at least in the short term, markets do not like the word tariffs. We see huge sell-offs, huge bearish price action anytime new tariffs are coming out or being released. And so obviously that's what we saw on Friday. Once again, new announcement, new tariffs, and a huge sell-off in the stock market, in the crypto market, etc. But then only just yesterday, basically right around the time that I posted my last video, just after I posted my last video, basically President Trump came out with this announcement around yesterday saying that don't worry about China, it will all be fine, and that President Xi of China just had a bad moment, and basically walking back the previous statement about potentially adding massive new tariffs on China. And so in other words, we got a huge announcement for new tariffs right here, massive crash, and then just yesterday, right around here, walking back that statement saying don't worry about it, China's probably going to be all fine. And now we're seeing a huge rebound in the US stock market in the early hours trading, set to potentially have a major open above Friday's close. And it's quite possible that if President Trump did not walk back the previous statement about new tariffs on China, it's possible we could have had a bit of a Black Monday situation with a massive crash as markets opened. But now that Trump has walked back the previous statement and basically saying don't worry about China, don't worry about the tariffs, once again, markets are now recovering in the short term on that news. And so I'm just simply mentioning this because, of course, that is really a massive driving factor for markets, at least in the short term right now, causing some huge whiplash with, first of all, massive bearish price action and now a recovery. So keep that in mind. That's happening in the US stock market, which ultimately influences the crypto market. We're seeing very similar price action to this right now in crypto. And if we're taking a look at the Bitcoin charts today here on the weekly time frame, the super trend indicator is still sitting in the green, indicating a larger bull market. And on this weekly Bitcoin price chart, of course, we've just seen a weekly candle close, which now technically reconfirms this bearish divergence. So yes, we now have a new bearish divergence to watch out for on the weekly Bitcoin price chart, with, of course, a higher high confirmed in the price in the candle closes, and now a new lower high actually confirmed in the weekly Bitcoin RSI. So yes, in the short term on this news right here, we're seeing a bounce in the stock market, a bounce in the crypto market, but just be aware that things are still not looking all that great on the slightly larger time frame, still losing bullish momentum in the bull market. And if we're taking a look at the daily Bitcoin price chart, once again, we still have a very similar fractal right now, very similar price action right now to what we saw near the beginning of this year and the end of 2024. Once again, a bearish divergence on the daily time frame, followed by a double bottom, a W pattern, followed by a slight all-time high breakout above the previous all-time highs, and then followed by a major dump. And then for the next few days, we actually saw a major bounce in the short term, a lot of choppy sideways price action for the next 1 to 2 weeks, and then a further correction in the price of Bitcoin over the next multiple weeks, if not months. And now, obviously, at that time, we were also seeing a lot of tariff news happening, whereas this time around, once again, potentially the tariff news is over, but obviously when it comes to all of this, you can't really predict what's about to happen when it comes to new policy coming out of the United States. And so just keep that in mind. Obviously, that is a bit of a wild card here when it comes to obviously these announcements about tariffs and then walking back the announcements. That can cause a bit of short-term volatility, but but overall, we still have the same sort of fractal on the daily time frame, not yet invalidated. So keep that in mind. And if we're taking a look at the 4-hour Bitcoin price chart, obviously right now the price of Bitcoin is bouncing alongside the US stock market, with that obviously bullish news in the short term, and of course bouncing from oversold territories here in the RSI. And obviously in my last 1 to 2 videos here on the channel, I said it's extremely likely we're going to have a bit of a break or a relief from all of the bearish price action, most likely in the form of maybe a sideways consolidation. Bouncing around sideways is a very likely scenario, and we started to do that for around a day, but then of course Trump came out about this new announcement, walking back the previous announcement about the tariffs, which is of course pumping markets in the short term. So obviously these sort of things you can't really predict. A new post about new policy coming out of the United States from the president, but either way, that's simply the situation right now. Obviously having a bit of a bounce due to that news, but if it weren't due to that, obviously it is still quite likely we're going to see a bit of a break or a relief either way from the bearish price action. And so that's still the situation in the short term. Continue to expect a bit of a break from all of the bearish price action, quite possibly a little bit more of a recovery here, especially if the US stock market does the same. Obviously pay attention to what stocks are doing to figure out what could be likely for crypto, as we're clearly seeing right now in the short term. And if we're taking a look at the Bitcoin dominance on the daily time frame, obviously right now we're still playing out that bullish divergence, but right now just over the last 1 to 2 days, we perfectly ran into this area of resistance based on previous support in the Bitcoin dominance. And of course, this is an area I've been talking about for a long time, in between 60.5% to 61%, and is obviously acting as major resistance here. In fact, in terms of the daily candle closes, we perfectly rejected from this area. And of course, as you probably already know by now, if the Bitcoin dominance is bullish, that is not good news for altcoins. But if the Bitcoin dominance is bearish, that is good news for altcoins. It means a lot of the major altcoins are doing better than Bitcoin. So even though we've not yet invalidated the bullish divergence, which means it's possible we could see a little bit more of a bullish relief in the coming days or in the coming weeks, due to the fact that we are, at least for now, rejecting from that major point of resistance, at least while that is happening, obviously that is providing some bullish price action for a lot of altcoins. And so that is the situation in the immediate short term. Once again, some good news for altcoins. And if we're taking a look at Ethereum on the 3-day time frame, of course, that good news over the last 1 day, the rejection in the Bitcoin dominance combined with obviously that new announcement from Trump, helped Ethereum a lot over the last 1 day to avoid the confirmation of a break below this area of support on the 3-day Ethereum price chart. Because obviously we got very close to actually confirming a candle close on the 3-day time frame below this area, but then as soon as all of that news hit the market at the same time as the rejection happening in the Bitcoin dominance, obviously Ethereum had a major bounce in the short term, and we're now once again retesting this major area of support, still sitting in between around 3.9k to 4.1k. So continue to expect a lot of support in this area. And once again, very good news that we've not yet actually confirmed a break below this area, only just that candle wick towards the downside, but no confirmation. And if we're taking a look at the 8-hour Ethereum price chart, obviously we've continued to play out that bullish divergence that I mentioned over the last couple of days. But once again, I was actually expecting maybe some choppy sideways price action or very slight bullish relief. I was not necessarily expecting a bounce of this size, because once again, as I said earlier in the video, you can't really predict a new post with massive changing of the policy from the United States. But getting back to Ethereum, obviously we've now broken back out above this area on the price chart and now retesting this area as support again, sitting in between around 40.50 to 4.1k. So expect a bit of support around that area. And once again, we now have a bullish divergence, not just on the 8-hour time frame that I've mentioned over the last couple of days, but we've now officially confirmed that bullish divergence here on the daily time frame, with one strong confirmation signal confirming the bullish divergence on the daily Ethereum price chart. And obviously, as we can see here, the last massive divergence that confirmed on the daily Ethereum price chart between the price and the RSI was this previous bearish divergence that confirmed around mid-August. And what came next was basically a massive sideways consolidation consisting of short-term bullish and short-term bearish price action, but most likely basically just cooling off, losing bullish momentum in terms of the larger structure here. Right now, we have the opposite of that bearish divergence, a bullish divergence telling us we're most likely going to be lacking bearish momentum, which means either a larger sideways consolidation or possibly a further bullish relief in the coming weeks as a very likely scenario now that this is confirmed on the daily time frame. But I want to make it clear, obviously the price does not move in a straight line. So even though we have this bullish divergence, of course we could see the occasional red candle here and there, maybe a bit of a pullback. For example, if we do end up playing out a larger sideways consolidation, kind of like this previous larger sideways consolidation, once again, that consists of both bearish and bullish price action. But overall, in terms of where the market is likely going to go in the next 1 week, for example, we're likely going to be a little bit more bullish than we are bearish. And so once again, this is now some good news, just confirming now for Ethereum when we're talking about the next 1 or 2 weeks is a very likely scenario. And as for resistance to watch out for, if we continue a bit more of a bullish relief here, expect some resistance potentially around 42.50 to 42.80, more resistance at around 44.50 to 4.5k, and some major resistance at around 46.80 to 47.20. And if we're taking a look at Solana on the 2-day time frame, right now Solana is following the rest of the crypto market and of course the stock market with a short-term bounce, but we're now testing a crucial area on the price chart sitting in between around 190 to 200. And previously this was first of all massive resistance and then massive support for the price, and is now potentially acting as new resistance. So this is once again an important test for the price of Solana. And so for now, considering we've not yet confirmed a breakout back above 200, of course expect potentially some resistance around this area, which means there is a real risk of another possible rejection here. But if the price actually does confirm ideally a 2-day candle close back above $200 and hold above that area, in that situation that will be very good news if we can actually confirm a reclaim of this area on the price chart. And in that situation, it's extremely likely we'll see at least a move up towards around 215 to 216, quite possibly a move all the way back up towards roughly $230 if we can soon confirm a breakout to reclaim around 200 and hold above this area. But once again, we've not yet confirmed that breakout above 200, which means for now, still potentially expect resistance around this area. And as for support, obviously expect a lot of support at roughly 170, which I've been saying since before we pretty much perfectly bounced from around 170. And if we're taking a look at the short term, obviously right now, once again, we're continuing that short term bounce, just like the rest of the crypto market and the stock market. Once again, all of this right here definitely influences the stock market, which then goes on to influence the crypto market. So right now, Solana is simply following everything else with that short-term bounce. And of course, I said over the last 1 to 2 days, we're most likely going to see a bit of a break or a relief from the bearish price action either way. But yes, I was expecting mostly sideways price action, maybe a slight bounce, not necessarily a bounce of this size, because once again, you can't necessarily predict a new post massively changing policy coming from the president of the United States. But the good news about not having to predict any of this price action here is, of course, if you've been following my trading strategy over the last few days, it didn't matter if the price went up or down. You could have made easy money no matter what the price did. And I'll explain in just a moment why. But first, taking a look at the Bitcoin and crypto funding rates. Of course, the arbitrage now is finally starting to close. In fact, it's mostly closed between the funding rates here. And in fact, most of the funding rates are now mostly normalized. Obviously, in my last video, I said that a lot of the funding rates are very negative, which could possibly lead to a small short squeeze, causing a bit of a pump in the short term. Once again, I said that yesterday before we actually saw this move. Now, once again, I'm not perfectly predicting this move right here because of that Trump post that I did not predict, but obviously very negative funding rates did help a little bit with that bounce as well. But obviously the main thing that I've been focusing on over the last few days is the arbitrage opportunity, the difference between the funding rates, between specifically the Solana funding rates, mainly between on BTNX, the BTNX exchange, and pretty much any of these other major exchanges like Binance, OKX, Bybit, etc. And right now there still is a little bit of an arbitrage, but nowhere near as much of an opportunity as what we saw over the last 2 days. Obviously, in the last 2 days, in my last 2 videos, there was a massive difference between very, very negative funding rates over on Bybit, for example, and very, very positive funding rates over on BTNX. And so yes, I very transparently took advantage of this opportunity, shared it here on the channel completely for free. A lot of people would charge for this information. I basically shared it completely for free. And yes, I am still in this trading opportunity right here. So once again, I still have a long position over on Bybit, still around a $2 million position. You can see right here, 5x leverage, $2 million long position on Bybit and a $2 million short position over on BTNX. So these unrealized P&L numbers effectively cancel each other out. And I was doing this simply just to take advantage of the difference between the funding rates. So if you have a long position and the funding rate is negative, you're earning the funding fees every 8 hours. hours. If you're having a short position and the funding rate is positive, you're also earning funding fees every 8 hours. And you can see this in the realized P&L here. I've not closed any of the trade, so this realized P&L is entirely from funding fees paid into my account, passive income. And so overall, once again, the unrealized P&Ls roughly cancel each other out. There might be like a $1,000 or $2,000 difference there, but in terms of the realized P&Ls, that's the real profit from the funding fees, which is a bit over 10,000 USD in profits in about 2 days. And you might have already noticed by now that I actually added a little bit more margin to these positions, just because once again, I did not necessarily expect a bounce of that size over the last 1 day, but once again, just to have a little bit more breathing room for this trade, I added some more margin to essentially move the liquidation prices, the stops, further away from the current price. And so in my last video, I had roughly $400,000 in both of these trades right here in terms of my actual margin, and I added an extra 300K to both sides here. So overall, about $1.4 million in margin, and once again, total position size about 4 million USDT. But considering the fact that this arbitrage is mostly closed, yes, it is still there. So yes, I could still make a little bit out of this trade, but considering it's mostly closed, most likely over the next 1 day, by the time you're watching my next video tomorrow, I probably have already closed out of this opportunity. So keep that in mind. Most of this opportunity is now over. And of course, that's what I said over the last couple of days. I said this opportunity will only likely last for a couple of days. And so this is why it's so important to subscribe to the channel with notifications turned on so that you don't miss out on any of these important update videos where I share these trading opportunities that I'm following myself to make a lot of very quick and easy profits in the crypto market. As you can see right here, easily over 10,000 USD in profits in just 2 quick days. And of course, if you want to take these trading opportunities for yourself, you have to be set up ready to go on a crypto exchange, or ideally multiple exchanges like what I have here. And personally, I took one of these trades, which was very important to take over on Bitfinex because of the very positive funding rates during this opportunity right here. So I'll make sure to leave a link to Bitfinex below this video in the description and in the pinned comment. And if you use that link, it will take you to this page right here where you can claim massive trading and deposit bonuses. For example, you can claim up to 120,000 USDT out of a prize pool for trading bonuses here just by trading crypto using that link. And there's also deposit bonuses. For example, if you deposit as little as $100, you get a $20 bonus, or if you deposit just 1,000 USDT, you get a $200 bonus into your Bitfinex account. Basically free money from the exchange just by simply making an account and making a deposit using that link. So if you're going to be trading crypto anyway, you might as well check it out. Once again, first link below the video. And in case you're wondering, Bitfinex is a no KYC exchange, which means you can access it from basically any country in the world without needing any KYC. But as always, check your local regulations when it comes to trading crypto. And for whatever reason, if you don't want Bitfinex as an exchange, there's also 2bit as another option out there, another exchange that I also trade on. So I'll also make sure to leave a link to 2bit below this video. And if you use that link, it'll take you to this page where you can also claim massive bonuses. For example, up to 10,000 USDT in trial fund bonuses and 8,000 USDT in actual withdrawable stablecoins just by trading and depositing crypto using that link to 2bit. And on top of that, without making any deposit or any trade, you can claim a free $30 sign up bonus and 1 month free VIP3 upgrade just simply by making an account using that link. So basically very cheap trading fees if you're using the link below the video. But unfortunately, if you don't use those links, you can't claim any of these bonuses here. So once again, if you're going to be trading crypto anyway, might as well check it out. Links below the video. And in case you're wondering, yes, 2bit is also a no KYC exchange. But with that being said, taking a look at XRP on the weekly time frame, and right now we technically still have that massive bearish divergence to watch out for, which has not yet been invalidated. So keep that in mind. This is still causing a larger cool off, lacking bullish momentum that I've been talking about pretty much every day since back in basically the end of July, early August. You can even watch my videos back then, see me talking about this larger bearish divergence, calling for a larger pullback over the coming months. That's what I said back then. You can even check the videos. And if we're taking a look at XRP on the daily time frame, obviously in the immediate short term, XRP is following the rest of the market with that short term bounce. And by the way things are going right now, it's possible we could soon retest this important previous area of support, which will likely act as new resistance here. And that's sitting in between between around $2.70 to $2.80. So once again, that is a crucial area on the price chart and will likely act as strong resistance if we see a little bit more of a bounce here. Once again, expect resistance around that area. And just be aware that even though, yes, we're seeing some decent bullish price action in the immediate short term, a decent bounce right now that could possibly continue for a little longer, even though this is happening in the immediate short term, we have to understand that at least for now, the larger price structure, the larger trend for the price of XRP is still currently pointing in the bearish direction. Obviously, we're forming lower highs and lower lows, breaking below very important points of support, not yet seeing any major breakouts above important points of resistance. And so obviously during a bearish trend, we can see decent bounces back towards the upside in the short term along the way towards the downside if we're zooming out looking at the bigger picture. So just keep that in mind. That's the short term situation, still possibly in this bounce right here, but the bigger picture not really changed all that much over the last one day. And if we're taking a look at Chainlink on the daily time frame, it's a very similar situation for Chainlink, obviously playing out that short term bounce, now testing an important point of resistance, but technically still within larger bearish price structure. And so first of all, when it comes to support and resistance, continue to expect a lot of support at roughly around 1730 to 1750, and more support in between around 1510 to 1560, give or take. And as for resistance, we're now testing an important area of resistance in between around $19 to $20. So expect a lot of resistance around that area. But if we actually see a confirmed breakout back above $20 and hold above this area, in that situation, it's possible we'll see a move up towards roughly $22, which will likely be the next point of resistance. But once again, right now, we're still testing this area of resistance in between $19 to $20. And once again, like I said earlier, yes, we are seeing a decent bounce in the short term, and yes, this could possibly continue for a little longer, but we have to be aware that at least right now, we're technically still within this bearish trend. And of course, during the bearish trend or the larger bearish price structure, we can see short-term bounces, even some decent bounces back towards the upside in the short term along the way towards the downside, the opposite of the previous bullish trend, where we can see some decent short-term pullbacks during the larger bullish trend. And so that is simply the situation right now. What is likely going to happen in the short term, looking at the bigger picture as well, and of course looking at certain points on the price chart where the price could possibly turn around at. And of course, if you want to take any of these trading opportunities for yourself, once again, check out the links below the video to those exchanges if you want to claim massive bonuses that are only available using those links. And if you want to actually know how you can take trades just like this for yourself to make a lot of very quick and easy profits in the crypto market, like what I'm doing myself with my own money, then make sure to watch these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left shows you how you can profit from bullish or bearish price action using long positions or short positions, and the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.